Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Joseph Capps coming back to you again with our podcast and our YouTube channel, Dancing with the Darkness. If you're a first-time listener, this is a unapologetic, raw, unfiltered podcast about living with CPTSD. We also talk about PTSD, operator syndrome, severe anxiety and depression, and some little things in between. Our focus is mainly on complex post-traumatic stress disorder and all of the unique challenges that we face in life with the developmental part of trauma all the way up to who we are today. So thank you so much for tuning in. Those that are return listeners and that are supporting the channel, I just want to thank you so very much. The only way that this gets out, the only way that we get any reach with algorithms and whatever else is if you like and share and subscribe. So if you haven't already, please do that. Go ahead and hit your subscribe button. This video speaks to you. Please like and share it with somebody that you think it'll help. That's why we're here. We're simply here to, the reason I'm here is to help other people to turn my own pain into purpose and to make it, if there's anything in my experience or in my life that I can share, not only what I've been through, but how I've overcome it, to help other survivors of CPTSD or PTSD. That's the only reason we're here. Traditionally, we have been failed by the system. We've been failed by the VA. We've been failed by mental health professionals. It's not all their fault, the way I went through the traditional education system, and we're just not taught correctly how to deal with CPTSD. And when you have a first person point of view and you've lived with it for 50 years, it gives you an intimate understanding, and that's why I'm here. We're going to talk about some clinical things that do work, but we're going to talk about some things that have worked for me that I know are solid, that I believe can help you. Our last video seemed to really resonate with you when we were talking about the lost time part of CPTSD, and we're going to mention that a little bit more today for those of you that haven't listened to the past video, and hopefully that's one that you'll check out. We've addressed a lot of things on this channel: the emotional flashbacks, the triggers, the mother wounds, the father wounds, a lot of developmental trauma issues. And so I encourage you to check the channel out. Like I said, it's only here to help you. If it resonates with you, please like and share. We also value your comments very, very much. And last but not least, if there's something that you're dealing with CPTSD that we haven't mentioned or we haven't talked about, please let me know. I will gladly broach any subject when it comes to this. I'm here to serve you. So today I want to talk about some emotional things that the only ones that are really going to understand these things are going to be people like myself with CPTSD. And the sad thing is it takes a lot of times many years for us to even get to a point where we can identify these things. It's become conditioning. It's become part of life. It's become our everyday. And so we don't realize, as we go through some of the somatics, like our dysfunctional attachment styles and our relationships not working out, and the way that we navigate the world with people, the way that we navigate stress, all of these things are things that we just kind of muddle through, and we kind of just struggle through. And we are very resilient, we are very strong, but at the same time, this cumulative effect, the cumulative effect of this stress, eventually we do get to a breaking point. We do get to a point where enough is enough, and we have to make a decision. Unfortunately, it's a trigger in itself to feel like we have to do something, but we do get to a point where it's make it or break it time, and we're going to make a decision to start looking at ourselves introspectively, and we're going to start trying to heal. Or we're going to continue down a very dark road. And that's why I call this podcast Dancing with the Darkness, because it truly is, because all of us have darkness within us. And those of us with polytrauma and severe trauma and abuse, there's a lot of darkness there that we have to deal with. We have to dance with it on a daily basis. And the good part of ourselves, the moral part of ourselves, has to come out ahead every single day. And that's why we talk about God on this channel. I am unapologetic about that, because I cannot come on here and be a hypocrite and not mention that Jesus and God are the only reason I'm sitting here. They have saved, Jesus has saved my life literally many times, not just from things on the outside trying to harm me, but from me trying to harm myself. So without Jesus Christ, this channel wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here, and so I absolutely have to give him credit for everything. And I'm not trying to preach to you or apostatize you. I'm just trying to tell you from my heart what saved me. And without believing in a higher power such as God, I would never be able to believe in healing or restoration or redemption, which is a very hard thing for us with CPTSD. So there's some feelings that words really can't quite touch. They kind of live in the quiet spaces between heartbeats. They're in those long pauses in conversations. They are ghosts of the past that seem to refuse to stay buried. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about if you're here watching this video. You felt them. You felt them before. Today, let's give a voice to some of these ghosts so that you understand some of these nuances of complex post-traumatic stress disorder that maybe you didn't understand, because it's exhausting. And the very first one, that I deal with every single day, because of who we become, we tend to become very empathic people, highly sensitive people. We're very sensitive to other people and to their needs, and we care deeply. And then, when you get to a point where you accept Christ into your heart and you are able to accept his love, it makes you even more sensitive and even more of an empath for other people. Even those that have harmed us, we learn to have some empathy and some love for them. And so these are all very, very powerful emotions that are coming into us. So it's difficult because one of the staples of CPTSD is this exhausting performance that we've lived our entire lives of being okay. We can't be flawed. We can't have a bad day. We can't show our emotions. We have to be stoic. We have to be the strongest person in the room, not only for self-preservation, but like I mentioned, we become empathic and we become caring people. And so all of a sudden, we as an empath start carrying the burdens of others. And so we feel like we have to be the guiding light. We have to be the one that's okay. We have to be the one that's strong. We can't show any weakness. And so, unfortunately, it becomes a full-time job for us to do this performance. We're literally doing an Oscar-winning performance in this act that we're okay, and that we're strong, and that we're resilient, and that there's nothing in the world that we can't handle. And oftentimes we've been through a lot, and so there's some truth to that because we have overcome a lot, we have survived a lot, we have been able to move forward from a lot. But there's this inner child in us, there's this broken piece of us that really is, I believe, our soul, the one that God crafted deep inside of us that we're supposed to be. And part of this act of being okay all the time is that we're protecting that part of ourselves. We're not going to let anybody see that weakness. We're not going to let anybody see that deep, dark pain. We're not going to let them see the millions of thoughts that go through our mind every day that are negative, from the inner critic and the outer critic and everything else. We find ourselves constantly wanting to manage even our facial expressions. We can't have that, what did the women call it, an RBF, the resting what face. So we try very hard to never even let our facial expressions or our mannerisms or our voice or our language or anything implicate anything else but we're okay. And it is an immense stressful toll on us to have to be that person every single day. And we navigate that pretty well, and we do for a long time. But our physiology does change as we get this white hair on our face. It changes. Our chemicals change, our brain changes, our body changes. And so how we adapt to stress, how we handle stress. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk famously wrote the book, Your Body Keeps the Score, and he's exactly right. Our body and our brain and even our soul are absolutely keeping the score. And so we've become this master actor. We're going to get this Oscar-winning performance. And the sad part is that we've adopted this identity, this false identity of being someone that we're really not. And by doing so, we subconsciously are taking on more and more and absorbing more and more from the people around us. And we become the one that they lean on. We become the one that they come for advice. We become the one that they can always count on. And these are actually good qualities. So I don't want to say that this is a bad thing, but we have to also be aware of the toll that it takes on us and how to create some boundaries. Because if we crack up and break and fall away or do worse, imagine not just the damage that's done to us, but that's done to those around us. And so this is absolutely a work in progress. This is something that we have to learn to do. We have to, I find, that God has been, the most important part, because I know that I can go to him with no judgment. He already knows what I'm feeling, so I can't hide from him. Adam and Eve tried to hide from him in the garden after they sinned, and God's like, what are you doing? I know everything that's going on. And so sometimes we forget that he's omnipresent, and he already knows. He sees what I'm going through. He knows my feelings. He knows the demons and the darkness inside of me that I'm fighting. So why not surrender to him and talk to him about it? And so by learning to give it to a higher power, and not fearing judgment, and him knowing who I am because he crafted every cell in my body, it does open you up to the possibility that God has also crafted other humans on this earth that are not only like you, but that you can trust and confide in and actually be yourself. And then something miraculous happens, and you even find that people actually really value and love the real you, which is a true miracle with someone with CPTSD. And we're going to talk more about that as we go through this video, why that's a miracle. I do want to mention once again, the distorted sense of time as we go through these things. And, just in case you haven't seen the last video, we elaborate on it. But this is a big thing with CPTSD survivors. And what it is, just to give you a real short synopsis of it, like I said, you can go to the past video and get really detailed with this. But it's a tangled web. And the reason why is because our present gets tied up in our past. Every time we have an emotional flashback, every time we have a triggering experience, every time there's that deja vu feeling, or there's a re-traumatization, or there's something that happens in our life that is eerily similar to a past trauma, and these things come back, our brain reacts. And part of it is something that we can't even really realize or take control of. It's down to the very wiring of our brain. It's called an amygdala hijack, and basically we start having a visceral, real-time fight or flight or freeze reaction to a simulation that's actually, not necessarily the past, but it reminds us of the past, or triggers or gives us an emotional flashback of the past. And so we find ourselves living in that situation again, and we're doing this coinciding with the present moment. And so what happens is we do lose time. Sometimes we dissociate. Sometimes by the time we work through this re-traumatization or this triggering experience, we've lost hours, maybe even a day. And this gets frustrating for the people in your life because your concept of time and theirs is not the same. We constantly have this sense of urgency, like we're running out of time. It's very, very hard to ever relax. We're going to elaborate on that in a minute, but we have a very hard time ever relaxing because we feel like we're running out of time, that every moment needs to be productive, or it needs to be, something that it has purpose to it. And so that can become very, very exhausting as well. We're gonna do a video soon about that in particular, about how we have this this kind of midday crash because of exhaustion, and we're going to talk about why that is so comorbid with people with CPTSD. So you have that to look forward to. So we find ourselves constantly when we're going through the day, waiting for the other shoe to drop or something bad to happen. It's a mixture of hypervigilance, hyperattentiveness. We've got the inner and the outer critic constantly barraging us with negative thoughts and negative emotions and negative, self-talk. And so these things can get very exhausting, and it gives us that distortion of time. So, like I said, if you really want a detailed example of what I'm talking about, go to the last video. It's very, very detailed. And obviously it resonated with a lot of folks. It was one of our highest viewed videos ever, which is wonderful because we're just here to help. So I'm so glad that resonated with the audience. This is one that only people with CPTSD are really going to understand, and this is something that we don't talk about, but we need to talk about. We talk about survivor's guilt, and when we talk about survivor's guilt, especially with PTSD, it normally it involves an event, combat or something where a couple of your friends or some of your soldiers didn't make it and you did, and sometimes we have what's called survivor's guilt, and it's how come I lived and they didn't live. Okay, well, with CPTSD this goes even deeper than that, because we're starting off often from the womb. In my life, in my story, which you can easily find online, I'm not going to elaborate, but my survival started in the womb. It literally did. I found out later in life that, my mother wanted to abort. My father wouldn't let her abort because, the Catholic religion was very strict about that. And so she did everything she could. And she knew what she was doing because she was a nurse, so she knew what was going to hurt the fetus, and she did everything she could to do that. And that was my first survival, was this premature baby in the 70s where there wasn't much NICU or anything like that, and somehow or another this little guy, this little 3.5-pound kid, makes it out and doesn't have fetal alcohol and breathes on his own. I did have some issues, but we have to look back that's the very first time that God said, you're not going anywhere, you have purpose. You grow up and you go through all of these things in life, and you don't realize that it's going to take you till late 40s, almost 50 years old before you start actually realizing what your purpose is. But that's God's timing, and it's not mine. And so we need to understand that it's never too late, number one, but number two, it really is not defined by time. It's whenever he decides that we're going to come out of this and do something with it. And so we struggle with all of these things that we've been through, whether it be surviving war, surviving combat, surviving your parents trying to kill you, not just in the womb, but my God, some of us have had some real near misses where our parents were trying to take us out, or car accidents, or even unfortunately attempts on your own life that should have taken you out. So we have this survivor's guilt, this deep guilt of, how did I survive that? Why did I survive that? Because we're desperately trying to figure out, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of me surviving that? What am I doing with my life? I'm just suffering. I'm just in pain. We feel like we're hurting the people around us. We feel like we're worthless and unlovable and all of these things. And so there's, this very thing that should be a badge of honor. It should be something that we're grateful for, that, hey, I'm strong. I'm resilient. I'm tough because I made it through these things. It's not. It becomes this cloak, and it whispers deep, insidious lies into our mind. Why you and not them? Or you must have done something to, have done something to deserve it. You are a burden to those who are about, or care about you now. There's all of these negative thoughts that come in. And most of it is from the voices of our past trauma. It's not even currently. It's just that negative self-talk and that inner critic just continuing to barrage us. And we end up in this internalized loop. I call it the hamster wheel. We're just running in this hamster wheel once again, and we're not getting anywhere. We have this insidious voice in us that tells us that we didn't deserve it. That these other people that may have lost their lives were good people. They were better than us, and they should have lived. And why did we live? Because we're just a waste. We're just a crap stain on somebody's underwear. And we need to understand this is when I lean back on God, because I have to tell you that if it wasn't for God speaking to me and holding me accountable, basically, God told me, look, are you telling me that my son's death isn't good enough for you? And that really woke me up as an empath and as a caring person to get out of this self-pity and this self-loathing. I'm not going to say that I don't still do that sometimes, but that's what really woke me up, was the fact that I was grieving God by hating myself and loathing myself and thinking that I have no purpose and that I shouldn't be alive, because he's the one who gave me a life. And not only that, his son died for me, just like he died for you. He died for me, and he died for all of my sin. He died for all of the things that I've done that I have felt like are unforgivable, the bad things that I've done, and you feel like nothing you do good will ever make up for the bad that you've done. This is all part of the deal. Unfortunately, it's part of this CPTSD that we have to learn to get over. This is a huge thing that we deal with. We have to get to this point, to this next thing that we're going to talk about, that we need to understand that we are not what happened to us. Okay, we are not the chaos. And we don't have to become that in spite of it. Okay, so the last thing I want to go over that coincides with this is that we have to get over this deep distrust of being safe. We, with CPTSD, have been conditioned, and this is where therapy fails a lot of us, because they want to do talk therapy, they want to do CBT and these other therapies, which they do work in a lot of instances. That's the very first model that I learned when I became a clinician, was cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's challenging your beliefs, and it does a lot of good things. But this is not a standalone for CPTSD at all, because we can't just challenge our beliefs and think differently. We have a right brain, lower hemisphere, very visceral, physical reaction. We are in fight or flight, freeze or fawn all the time, and this is a physical reaction. This involves blood pressure, the oxygenation of the blood, the chemistry of our hormones. We are wired differently. We are a circuit that you flip the switch on, and it's either going to cut the light on, or it could start a fire and burn the freaking house down. Okay, you need to understand that. And the reason I use that metaphor is because an electrician can come in and fix that faulty wiring, right? He can rewire it and get rid of the fire hazard and make sure that your light cuts on the way that it's supposed to. Okay, and so I need you to understand that when we connotate the D in CPTSD as disorder, it sounds very, very permanent. And this in itself can be very degrading to people's healing, because once you're labeled with something, you think that it's permanent and you're never going to get out of it. And we need to understand that healing does take place. And even though the damage of CPTSD is very deep, and it has many, many layers, and it's not easy, we need to understand that those layers literally present themselves in a way for us to heal, because we can heal layer by layer. Okay, so we have this deep down moral part of us, ethical part of us. It's a soul wound deep inside of us that has made us fear safety. And the reason I brought up CBT is because CBT talks a lot about evidence. Okay, we want to contrast the evidence, right? What is the evidence for your belief? Well, this is where it gets very tricky for CPTSD survivors, because the evidence supports our beliefs, okay? Our past and what has happened to us, especially our primary caregivers hurting us, the people that were supposed to love us and nurture us and develop us have hurt us deeply, and then we end up going through life being around more people that are either narcissistic or have certain personality types because we're used to it. So we continue to get hurt, we continue to get abandoned, we continue to get rejected. And so if we were to use CBT only as a therapeutic intervention, it's going to be catastrophic, because all we're doing is reinforcing the inner critic and the outer critic and what they're telling us. That we are unlovable, that we are never going to experience love, we are never going to be safe, okay? Not only because there's flaws in us, but because nothing in the outside world is safe. There is no safe human, there is nothing safe, okay? So we are going to be in this eternal loop of pain. Because we are created in God's image, and we are social beings, and we want love. We want to be nurtured and cared for. It is in our DNA. There is no way we can get around it. And so even though we battle with this belief system that nothing is safe and we're never going to have love and we're never going to have any of this, we still end up in relationships. We still seek it because we are desperate for it. It is death by 1,000 cuts to experience that level of loneliness and to not have affection and to not have love from someone else, because God made us that way, because he wanted to have that type of relationship with us. He wants to have a loving, caring, intimate relation with us, and we can't get past that. We cannot get past how our Creator created us and the fact that we need other people. There's this whole stoic mindset, there's this philosophical mindset, and all of these, they call it toxic masculine, whatever. There's all these people that are like, I can go and blah, 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 and I can be this, and I don't need anyone. And, this is back to that very first thing we went about. This is your Oscar-winning performance. You're not fooling anybody, because I promise you, I have been that man. I have been that man who has been isolated. I have been that guy that thought that he didn't need anybody, and that's bullcrap, okay? You go deeper, deeper, deeper into isolation. You go deeper, deeper, deeper within yourself, and it is not a good place. It is not a good place to be. And we get further and further away from God, which is the light. That is the light that keeps us out of the darkness, and then bad things happen. And I'm not going to talk about that because you already know. I don't need to patronize you by telling you what happens when we get to that point. So we have to understand that these visceral feelings of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, we can work through these things in the proper way. We can do what's called somatics. We can do polyvagal work. There's lots of things that we can do simply by breathing, prayer, calming ourselves down, learning how to talk with compassion to ourselves. There's lots of ways that we can work on taming that visceral reaction. And then when we get to the point where we can tame the visceral reaction, then some talk therapy or some positive self-affirmations work very well, because then our nervous system is regulated in a way that we can start to understand that we can be safe, we can feel safe. We also have to understand that even though we've been regulated and conformed and crafted in a way that we think that the other shoe is going to drop because evidence supports it, we have to accept that part of that has been our dysfunction, and that we remain in these environments. So if I go into a cage with a bunch of hungry lions that haven't eaten in a month, there's a very good chance that they're going to try to eat me, okay? Because that's just the way it is. And so we have to get ourselves to a point where we start recognizing what's unhealthy for us. We start recognizing the toxicity of our environment and the people around us. And we start to realize that the reason we're unsafe is because we are in an unsafe environment and we've put ourselves there. There are good people out there. There are people that God has crafted to be caring and loving and nurturing. And they're there, and we just have to find them. And as we do that, we can start to layer by layer let that part of us come out, that real self, that real person that's inside there, that real soul. And we can start to understand that we can be safe, and that some of our resources that we've crafted within ourselves to be safe, we can start turning them into positive things. There's nothing wrong with being vigilant. Hypervigilance is a little exhausting, but being vigilant and knowing what's going on around you and being aware, it's a very good safety mechanism. Realizing that when you interact with people, and if they do or say something and it makes you feel a certain way or triggers you or causes you to have an emotional flashback, we need to start understanding that, okay, this is a person that I probably shouldn't be around. This is a person that I probably should avoid. These are things that they sound simple, but I know how hard they are because I couldn't do it for a long, long time. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I haven't had the struggle, because I understand it. But these are things that we need to do. We need to learn to trust our body at the same time that we distrust it, because we distrust many times because we've been stuck in this loop. But we do develop instincts. We do develop some hypersensitivity to certain things, and these are good things. These can be used in a very positive way. It can be used to keep you safe. It can be used to keep those around you safe. And so we need to start turning our pain into purpose, and that's how we start to reverse the unsafe feeling and the unsafe environment. We start to learn that some of the attributes that we have crafted within ourselves that have been conditioned and honed through trauma that has to do with military service, first responder, developmental trauma from what happened with your parents, or just intimate relationships that have gone horribly wrong, any form of abuse or trauma. We've developed some instincts, we've developed some survival mechanisms that, if we learn to tame them and we learn to regulate ourselves in our nervous system, these can become some amazing qualities that we have that literally contribute to us being able to be safe, and knowing that that's possible. I think that we do pretty well with our physical safety because we've been trained that way. We know how to zig when we instead of zag. We know how to do these things physically. Many of us have survived physical things. And so we have a very good sense of how to survive in that environment. It's more the mental and the moral part that we have to learn to navigate and to learn that we're safe. And this involves, like I said, what worked for me was acknowledging that God was there and that there was no judgment and I was safe with him. And from that, I started understanding that, it may be one or two people that I meet in my entire life, and you know what? That's good enough. It's good enough if God sends you one or two people in your life that you can open up to and be yourself and be your genuine self. And the amount of release and the amount of healing that takes place just understanding that the real you is not a bad person, that actually that person is pretty special, and then realizing that God has a purpose for that you can take all of these things that were horrific in your life and you can turn them into something positive, mainly by helping other people that are in the same place that you are now. And there is no greater reward, there is no greater affirmation or validation than to be able to help a brother or a sister that is suffering. It really isn't, because it means that everything that you endured can turn into something positive to help someone else so that they don't suffer the way that you did. But it also gives you the beginning of that safe environment, because part of your safety is being comfortable with yourself and knowing that the real you is actually a very important and very special person that God has put on this earth. Thank you so much for listening today. We always do this podcast from the heart, and I hope that you feel that. I hope that you feel the genuineness and the truth and the passion in my words. And I hope that something I said today you can apply to your life and to your heart please feel free to reach out, comment. We love hearing from you. And thank you so much. And until next time, God bless and be safe.